Once in a while, of course, you run into people that just think, you're out busking, you must be some kind of bum. And a lot of people kind of giggle at you. I don't know. Don't spend it all on alcohol. Sorry, guy, you're no Garth Brooks. You make a lot more money if you play songs to your new. If you were a real man, you'd go out and get a job. Why don't you get a job? Real man, you'd get a job.
In a state of mind that was not so long ago, the seeds of change were planted on the airwaves of the radio. With a bop, shoo bop, and a down doobie down, the father of rock was heard all around from coast to coast. He was the most, he was cool, he was clean, he was boss, he was keen, the father of rock and roll.
Welcome to fabulous Des Moines, Iowa, home to a street musician you've never heard of. Every day I had to walk by this guy, singing at the top of his lungs and beating his guitar strings like they owed him money.
It's 8 a.m. and here's a random homeless bum with his out-of-tune version of Sweet Caroline, cranked up to 11.
Okay, I suppose I should do my good deed for the day and throw a buck in his guitar case. I can see the heavens opening up and shining their favors down upon me now. Shit, maybe not. Here he goes with that horrible John Denver cover again. At least I think that's what it is. Yep, that was me, and I'm a total asshole. But I'm a curious asshole. I saw this omnipresent musician at every event around town, playing his heart out and smiling the whole damn time. Who is this guy? What does he do for a living? What's his deal? Something told me there was history behind those eyes. I had no idea where this rabbit hole would lead, but I knew I had to dig. So one day, I walked up to him, threw $50 in his guitar case, and jumped in with a simple sentence. I want to tell your story. And with that, it all started. And I soon realized that there's a lot to learn from a baritone minstrel on the street. So I guess that's where lesson number 1 comes in. Appearances are nothing. We're all pretty friggin' weird.
Rock and roll just happened. I was there when it happened.
Randy Kong, K-O-N-G. I hope I'm not blowing the sound levels. Every yay off when I get complaints, I'm too loud. I've tried to tone the volume down, but I can't sing good if I don't. I always joke with people, I said, well, Elvis and Mario Lanza were loud too, so. You know, that's the one thing, these guys that make it big. I don't understand people that don't enjoy doing these interviews, because in real life, my God, nobody gives a shit about anything you have to say. My favorite compliment, though, was at the Renaissance Festival. Ladies in the Renaissance Festival come up to me and said, you know, you have a really exceptional voice. And just in case you don't think I know what I'm talking about, I'm a vocal coach at Iowa State. That was pretty cool. Oh, you got a tattoo for a TV character. That's kind of weird. You can't read it. It says Blair in the heart. And believe it or not, it's actually Blair Warner from The Facts of Life. As a teenager, I won't lie, I was a little like Blair Warner, just kind of full of myself, but in kind of a fun way.
And I'm sick of your holier-than-thou attitude. You pompous, self-righteous pain in the neck.
It was my reminder of myself that no matter how bad things got, to keep that upper-minded spirit going. Oh, this is a ridiculous thing. A commemoration of Sheila, the baby snatcher, on The Young and the Restless. And I never did get it finished, and it's just a kind of an eyesore, and it looks really stupid. And talk about being married in TV land. If I ever get rich, one of my dreams is to have this laser removed and replaced with a color tattoo of Hannah Montana.
I don't know that that's a better choice.
I also thought I had an itching issue, which turns out is related to now hepatitis C, that's normally caused by tattoos, dirty needles, and I've never been an intravenous drug user ever. All of my tattoos were done in shops, but I had one tattoo done by a guy who had just got out of jail. Any size tattoo you want for 15 bucks. So I jumped on it, and that would be the only thing in my past they could think might have caused it. You've heard my love songs. I write great love songs, but it's all, you know, but I'm really more into writing the songs, and singing and making a fool of myself is more what I'm good at. I couldn't do that. I haven't been able to do that in 6 years. There's one song I do, The Harvest, where the falsetto was just crucial. I've got this one spot where I go, our hillsides of October trees and colored leaves of ever-changing hue.
I may be going out on a limb here, but I'm guessing you have some questions. Trust me, I was right there with you. But I started to see something incredible in Randy. This glimmer of positivity in a world all too caught up in the negative news cycle. And that's when I realized the incredibly uplifting and highly motivational lesson number 2. There's a good chance most of your dreams will die. Okay, I lied about the uplifting part. Again, I'm kind of an asshole.
And my brother, who was in the band with me here in Des Moines, he decided that they wanted to try it in a big city, so
it was clear to me the more I spoke with Randy that his old band was an important part of who he was. So I found myself in San Francisco, searching for Dave, his brother, and the incredibly Gene Simmons-like bass player from their aptly named band, Sin.
Well, I've learned one thing: you don't want to do it in sound check and yell out me and suck on my You're not going to say that during the show. It's like, oh, well, that is our show. Randy himself was always a musician. You know, he was 3. You know, he was kind of went missing at the department store, and they found him in the music department. There was like a radio playing, and he was just there dancing back and forth. There's this whole crowd of people standing around watching him. I remember, of course, my brother writing songs and, you know, doing little mini concerts for my family, and me always wanted to be like Randy. Of course, I remember me sitting there with a badminton racket and a little puck from a hockey game, trying to play along with him. My parents were married, but my dad was actually a closeted gay man. So he was away a lot on business trips, you know, I'm sure not only doing business, but, you know, trying to find himself, and that was fine. So in many ways, I was raised largely by my mom and in some ways by Randy. When I was about 4 and 5, I was heavily into the Batman TV show, you know, with Adam West, and I just loved the Batman show, and so he actually started the Batman fan club for me. And he would send me drawings of the Batmobile and the Batman and Joker and stuff like that, you know, and then, granted, my brother's not an artist, so these were just like shitty stick figures and just barely etchings out of the Batmobile. And on some level, I knew it was my brother, but on one level, I was just eating it up. You know, Batman sending me things. Oh, this is fantastic. And one day, I just decided I don't want to go to school. And so my brother gets on the upstairs phone and he calls down and he says, well, this is Batman, and I want you to go to school. Batman wanted me to go to school.
I just said, yeah, Dave, this is Batman. I'm here in the Bat Cave, and if you want to be a solid citizen, it's really best that you go to school.
And I immediately, without question, put on my pants, went to school, never questioned going to school ever again. I would say it definitely affected Randy. Randy was one of those who really treasured the whole family life and family unit, and after their divorce, I think he took it fairly hard, you know, kind of left school for a while and did some gambling and things like that.
You've probably heard about these blackjack players that are card counters. And that was pretty much all I did. And I was fortunately, when I did it, it was back in the days when many of the casinos still dealt a single deck. And you can get percentages over the casino that are 5-10%. I went out with a really meager bankroll, and I just barely, you know, if I would make enough in a day normally to just set aside a little for my $35 a week rat hole I was staying in, and go to a buffet dinner for $2 or something like that. After what I've learned about mathematics and probabilities and deviations from the statistical norm and whatnot, that I was even able to survive with that 300 for that long is actually a feather in my cap. And I was like, oh, he went out there and he didn't make it, and he came back to Des Moines with his head between his legs or whatever. And really I realized later it was actually a big success. Originally I was actually putting myself through college, and then I actually ended up just quitting college, and by the time I went out there to try to survive, I was down to like a $300 bankroll and enough to get out there on the Greyhound. $300. The first time I quit college, it was to do the blackjack. But I was actually on a debating scholarship as well. I was all enrolled and ready to go, and didn't go back to form sin. And for decades I said, boy, that was one of the dumbest things you ever did in your life. But here I am now at my age, and I'm surviving playing cards and playing music, so maybe it was meant to be, as they say. I've always been a dreamer in my life. I just had this crazy idea that not just succeed in rock and roll, but then I was going to use that money to open up not just one casino, but a chain of casinos. And I was going to open up homeless youth shelters all over the country. Not just a rock and roll star, but almost kind of like a savior to humanity, and wealthy and successful. I would just like that everybody should have a certain standard of living. One day it dawned on me, you know, we don't ask Charles Manson or Richard Speck or the Hillside Strangler to live without food and shelter. So, you know, why not these folks?
Okay, well, as you know, Randy and I were playing in the band Sin. Basically, I would describe the band as kind of Kiss with kind of a punk rock Sex Pistols attitude. You know, we had the music, we had the theatrical, but if you didn't like it, hey, fuck you. You know? And talk about problems, moving from gig to gig. We had these 7-foot columns that lit up, and then we had a song called The Devil's Tool. And so he wrote a song about vibrators. In the beginning of that song, we'd pull out a vibrator and throw it into the audience, and it would land in somebody's pizza or their beer.
We were told by one person we sucked, and we were told by another person we were the best thing he'd ever heard in that club. So you never really know.
There are very few places to play in Des Moines. In fact, one of the big gigs we had set up was at Adventureland Park. And so we put out a whole bunch of flyers, and we just had a joke at the bottom that said, distributors of religious publications will be bodily evicted. It's a joke. We didn't think anything of it. You would not believe the response we got on that. Parents started calling my mom. Churches started calling my mom. Principals of schools started calling my mom. Even the sheriff's department started calling my mom. And she basically told everybody they called up. She said, I agree with my kids, and you piss off. And hung up on her. You get a call from Adventureland Park, and they're saying, well, hey, we really were not expecting this kind of reaction from your performance. We just can't have this. So they refunded our money, and I knew we were onto something.
Even in San Francisco, when the band went out there, there was a lot of clubs wouldn't have them because it was just too over the top. In fact, they used to get in fist fights occasionally with other bands who were offended by what they were doing.
The climax of the show was a song I wrote during study hall called Damn the Preacher. And I'd written this about an anti-religious band that got shot on stage. In the beginning, God created heaven and the earth. But on the seventh day, he carelessly rested, and there arose vile, disgusting creatures from the depths of hell, which arose and were called Antichrist. And in the middle of the song, the lights would dim. Steve would pull out a torch, and we would have a Bible. So we'd bring that torch down, flare up about 5-7 feet with flames, scare the hell out of everybody.
We have with us here a quote from the song Damn the Preacher that Dave Kong wrote and used to perform with his band Sin. Mr. Kong's song lyrics read, I'm quoting here, "Damn the preacher, burn him, roast him, cook him, stomp him like a hog."
I never saw Sin on any of the Billboard charts, so I think that somebody is angry at God for being a sucky band.
Is there any truth to that?
Long story, basically. And getting the album out, my guitarist partner Steve split. Ironically, I was going to work with the drummer, and he got off drugs and became unreliable. if you can appreciate that. At one point, when we moved the band out to California, he had actually asked to be back in the band.
I said, I don't feel it's my place to just come back and say, hey, I want to go back to the band. I said, audition me with your other auditioners, and if you get a David Lee Roth or a Ronnie James Dio, take him, no hard feelings.
And at that point, of course, we just moved it out here. And it's like, well, hey, we just did all the hard work to get things out here, and now we're getting things going, and now you want back in.
2 weeks later, I get a thing, well, they don't even want me. My mom had to tell me, says, yeah, they just called, they don't want you to come out.
And we said no, and then in retrospect, I sure as fuck wish we'd said yes.
A lot of anger and a lot of shouting matches and death threat, even got into death threats for a while. And
for all the people that love him, like him in Iowa, he would have been loved by millions if he had come out to California. I think he could have been a huge smashing success.
Well, about a year and a half later, I had some memories of my brother long before we were in the band at all. And I realized, boy, this is just wrong the way this has gone. And I sent off a wrapped Christmas present. And in the Christmas present to the family was a letter, me saying I was gonna remove all the bitterness and all the anger from the incident and just forget the whole thing. And that was my Christmas present to the family.
Even if the band hadn't gone much further, Randy certainly would have. I know that.
You know, all bands have their, they break up and they all hate each other. The only thing why it's important to the story, it manifested itself in my song Back from the Grave, which is kind of a centerpiece of that Breed of Men album. It's a 25-minute piece based on the suffering from that period and my emerging to say, okay, I'm not going to let this get me down, and I'm going to go on. 15 minutes of acoustic, and then little by little in the acoustic part, the thinking gets more positive and more hopeful and more energized and more with the, F this and blah, blah, blah. And by the end of the song, the guy has decided not to commit suicide. And then a jet takes off and it kicks into a really fiery rock and roll number. And the second half of it is just a celebration of, hey, let's get out the jack, let's get the women down here. I'm going for it, it's time to live. In fact, I've got it on my MP3 if you wanted to hear it. Let's get us some wine, toot us some coke, grab us a bag, and let's have us a token. It's that kind of a, I already know I will never write a song ever again that's going to have the meaning that song has, so I don't even try. Yeah, we've had our Freebird, we've had Pink Floyd, The Wall, we've had Inagata-Davida, certainly was a great musical journey. Because nothing like that in rock and roll really has ever been done. His name is Steve Morrow. We called him Lord Mariner in the band. In Demigod, every member had to take a character name. His was Lord Mariner, and he had that pirate identity. I was Demigod, obviously.
After Sin, he said, I want to be as independent as possible. And Randy had his one-man show. He used to have tapes, multi-track tapes he did, and I finally said, look, I'll give it a shot. You can stay here for free. Just come down in my basement. Let me have the opportunity to play. And our first gig together was at Big Daddy's. After they heard the first chorus, they were ready. When he sang, "Go Down Gambling," they were patting the table, "Go down gambling," and "Go down gambling." It rocked.
Go down gamblers! Go down gamblers! Go down gamblers!
The day after we were supposed to do Friday and Saturday, someone came up to him in the afternoon and said, "Randy, that was great music." And it just lifted him. When this was going, and then we started getting people to notice, and when they would tell him, complimented him, well, remember, this was his baby, that was his name, you know, he would just uplift like a rocket. And then, like I said, we would have just incredible sets. When we saw a lot of bands just looking very anemic and just, oh hum, we had a vision, and we were more packed physically. That was the whole concept, some meat and potatoes. He sang in a more baritone voice. Instead of the typical wiry little thin guy screeching his butt off, we were meaty, we were stocky. The whole concept of the sound was gravity. I wanted to get to the lower register, and when I put a cassette edge to my lower string, I found my sound. I found this space bass, and it was so voluminous. It gave us more meat and more arsenal, and so I'm still going to explore what I call thunder beneath the sea.
Steve, if you see this, you are my man. I listen to your stuff all the time on MP3, and your musical genius is just, I'm appreciating it more every year. Things got a little tense with us personally. We were friends. It was Christmas together, Thanksgiving together. It was stay over at my place for the weekend. It was that kind of closeness, and that kind of closeness can breed animosity and irritation, and after 22 years it just got to where we'd had some spats, and we're both the kind of people pleaser types. We hold it in, we don't say it, but when it comes out, shit, it comes out. And I finally just had to come to and say, let's be honest, this isn't working anymore. And sadly, it was right after the album came out. There was no band to promote the album once we were done with it. I worked a job I absolutely despised at the Sears call center. The family dynamic wasn't the best. And it was just a year after we'd put the album out, so we never really got a chance to try to get some momentum. And between the job and the family thing in Hawaii and the thing with the band, I just wanted to go to a desert island and be as far away from humanity and the way the world works as I could get.
He was a great guy, always came to work on time, always did his job and did it well. We were doing a Sprint call center.
You could fix the guy's BlackBerry, but if you didn't say thank you for calling Sprint, that was an automatic fail. I mean, it was stuff like that that drove me nuts. One time I quit to become a day trader in stocks. I really didn't lose any money at it, but I didn't make any money.
Well, I remember when he used to work at a nursing home.
My whole life has pretty much been a seesaw of, oh, I'm giving up these crazy ideas, and I'm just gonna work my job, and I'm gonna save my money, and always having these dreams of freelancing and just getting out of the rat race and just freaking out and doing it. I quit the job immediately, taking all my equipment from my bass player's house, putting it in storage. While I was at a Quick Trip getting a Coke on one of my moves, one of the guys I used to know back in the day had reminded me that, you know, it is now legal for us to just play on the streets like they do in the big cities. It was actually not legal until like 2006. While I'm trying to get reacclimated with my poker, this might be a good kind of supplement. So I went down to City Hall and I got the proper permit. You will not believe this, but our permits are $5 a year. I mean, for startup costs, that you can't argue with $5. The panhandling they don't like. When you got $5 together, go down and get your permit and just recite poetry or something. I bet you could pick up $10 just doing that.
I would see Randy and I'm like, hey, what do you have to do this? He had no problems telling me what was up. So he said like, oh, you just gotta get a permit. And so like we got a $5 permit and then we started like hitting up the skywalks. That's just how he is. He's just like a very encouraging and positive person.
I finally got the gumption to pack up my guitar and I was so nervous about it. Well, will the cops bother me? Are people gonna laugh at me? Is anybody gonna give a shit? So I finally said, you know, like you do when anytime you get out of your comfort zone, I said, well, here goes nothing, and opened up my guitar case and I thought, well, I suppose I ought to put in a little decoy money, so I threw $3 in as seed money, as the church people call it. To this day, I still go with 3, otherwise it throws my accounting off. And I'm starting to put my strap on and I'm kind of getting myself together, and a guy threw $1 in my case before I'd even started playing. And I thanked him profusely. I just, well, hey, maybe we're on to something here. This busking is the first thing I've ever done that was a success right off the bat. And I ended up making $12 that first day. And I remember as I was walking home, I made a vow that no matter how long I was in it, I was going to appreciate and be grateful for every dollar the same as I was that first dollar. And I wasn't going to allow myself to get jaded to it and never go, oh, thanks again, buddy, you know, like, oh, that's just business as usual. And I think I've kind of held up with that. And since then, I've made figures of 385, 364, 280, 275. I had such a full dance card, I didn't have time to play poker. So wouldn't it be wonderful if I could do this and just forget about the card playing? And son of a gun, that's how it worked out. I couldn't tell you how many people have walked by. I'm sure it's probably in thousands. Over the course of 6 years, if it's even possible that 1 million people have walked by. That might be exaggerating it a little bit, but a lot.
It ebbs and flows in a natural scheme, its direction unforeseen.
I suppose that brings us to lesson number 4. True success isn't 1 million people all at once. It's 1 million people over time. And the more people you see, the better you'll feel about humanity.
It takes a lot of guts to stand out there in front of people and put yourself out there and play music. It's not easy. I think it's nice to have downtown. It's like a whole nother level. It's not just buildings and streets and cars. There's music in there.
He plays what he feels. It really comes from thought. So
I really don't know. I'm assuming he does it because he loves it.
This guy needs a little bit of money. You know, he's trying hard. He's out here. He's doing what he loves, and he's living free.
We'll go into the future with fervor and with sass. Oh, life begins when you retire. It's time to kick some ass. That's how I ended it.
People say, oh, you're really cool the way you'll just go to a spot where you might make $1 or $2, and they don't understand I can do that because I'm just kind of having a good time.
Keep away from Duncan Stew.
somehow it all works out. I don't know why, but yeah, this is wonderful. I get to play what I want to play, when I want to play. I don't have to book gigs. You know, I'm not kidding. If somebody offered me a spot in KISS right now with the groupies and the hotels and the touring, I don't know if I'd take it, believe it or not. I know that sounds crazy, but really, this is pretty cool. You'd be amazed at the type of people that still find it in their hearts to throw something in. And I mean, I've got this one little sweet lady that tells me, oh, every Social Security check I throw in $2. And I'm always telling her, I said, you know, you've bought the lifetime membership at this point. Police work is rough because you see people at their worst. And I'm lucky in what I do. I see people at their best, even when they're not throwing something in the guitar case. At least they're dancing and they're smiling. And I've had people tell me, you're the one that keeps my spirits up. I have a bad day, I get chewed out by the boss, and I don't care about the world, and I walk by and you're here doing your thing, and it always kind of makes me feel a little better about things, and that's always satisfying to hear. And I've always felt psychologically a little disappointed that I didn't make a bigger mark in the music world. And I think the beauty of my life is that everything that I thought was wrecking my life, the card playing and the music, turned out to be the one thing that saved my life. I think they think, oh, I threw in $1 or $2. And they really don't understand, they really saved my life. My whole vision of people has so changed since I started doing this. People have no idea how kind-hearted the majority of people really are. The average guy doesn't see that. You walk by somebody at the grocery, you don't know if he's an asshole or what. But needless to say, I've run into some people that make for interesting stories. He uses the moniker B. John Byrne. The first time he walked by, he threw in a $10 bill. Guess what his day job is? He's a lawyer. And talk about big tips. One day, he showed up with a black Fender guitar. I bought this about a year ago, and he says, I've hardly played it 3 times. He says, I think maybe you might get better use. And 2 years later, I had just beat the poor Fender to death. And I apologized to John. I said, God, I hope he's not upset that I put it into that kind of shape. And not only was he not upset, he shows up a couple days later, and he's got a guitar in his hand. He says, I saw this on sale, and I thought maybe it's something that you might be able to use. And I didn't look at it till he started to walk away, and I looked at the neck. It was a Martin. The son of a gun actually bought me a Martin. Probably the most notable people, the most notable story is a couple I call the couple with the golden touch. Every time they came through, they always threw in like a 10 or maybe a 20 or something. It was always big bills, always. Their big thing in life was to go out to Prairie Meadows to the casino and play the slot machines. And that was their big thing in life, go have a buffet and play the slot machines. Every yay often, like anybody, they'd win a big jackpot, maybe $1,000, maybe $800, whatever. And their theory was that if they took some of that jackpot money and used it to help people out, that their good luck would continue. And I applaud those people for their high-minded philosophy on this, but logically I didn't buy it. I didn't, you know, I'm being a gambler myself. I didn't see that gonna alter their percentages or their odds much. I thought, well, it's a nice thought, but it's logically I don't see it panning out. Son of a gun, they kept hitting. They kept hitting. They would come by again and throw in another 20 or 30 and occasionally even a 50. Oh, they had just hit for $3,000. They just hit for another 1,000. Oh, they just hit a big one for 8,000. And son of a gun, for about 2 years, they kept hitting. About every month, every 6 weeks, they'd hit again. And once again, they'd help all kinds of people out, including me. After a couple of years of this, the man came by. He had just got back from the bank, and he threw in $200 bills. It was no longer 10s and 20s, it was 100 or 200. I don't know where they got the money or what kind of money they hit for, but they bought the daughter a new house and a brand new car for Christmas. One day after, about a year after that, they came and said, well, Randy, you're not going to see us anymore. And they said, we're moving down to North Carolina. We're going to move by our daughter. In an effort to show these people some kind of appreciation, I bought them another certificate for a big expensive steak dinner, and I wrote this poem, The Couple with the Golden Touch. They said, oh, we're going to put it up in the living room of the new house they just bought. And they moved, and I never saw them again, and the night I made that poem up, I said, I wonder how much they really have given me. And I did the math, and I figured out they probably gave me somewhere between $2,500 and $3,000. Bet they're still going to the casino, and I bet they're still helping folks out, and I lay 5 to 1, they're probably rocking it up and making it happen.
And he was singing on the skywalk, and I was enjoying his music. And we was giving him money and his guitar. And so then I asked him, I said, is there a chance that you could possibly come out to the house and start singing for us?
They were just regular customers like everybody else. Her bone disease had gotten worse, and some of her other conditions had gotten worse, and the doctors were telling her she might not live beyond a year.
Blind in one eye, going blind in the other. I got osteoporosis because of Kepper. I have 6 tumors. No, 8 tumors. 8 bulging discs. And they don't know how much longer I have. I'm just a mess. But that's the reason why I asked Randy, because it helps keep my spirits up, you know.
They were getting evicted from the apartment. They were actually coming to say goodbye. They said, well, you know, we probably won't see you. We're going to move in with my dad on the north side. And I said, well, look, you call me or email me anytime you just feel like you need to talk to somebody. We had a few conversations, and suddenly one day I came up and I said, well, she was saying, oh, I really miss hearing you play. And I said, well, there'd be no reason I couldn't just come over to your dad's. I've been doing that for 3 years now. She's still alive. They've got her on 65 different medicines. I've gotten really close to the dad. He actually bought me one of those Keith Urban guitars with the amplifier and all that gear that came with it. That was a gift of love, and he and I are like that now.
Randy is like a Christmas present. Not that he gives us stuff and everything, but he shares his talent with us. And for Father's Day, he gave me a thing he wrote about. He sort of looks at me as a second father.
And then, out of nowhere, Randy went dark. He simply vanished. He never had a phone, but always answered emails. And after a missed meeting and a week of silence, I knew something was up. So I called every hospital on a whim. And that's where I finally found him.
I was feeling a little faint and a little groggy that morning. I knew I wasn't going to be able to play. I've kind of flirted with that feeling before, and usually a nap clears that up. So I went to sleep and got up later that evening and went into the bathroom, and I must have passed out because the next thing that happened, I woke up and there was blood on the floor.
But he told me that his apartment looked like a tornado came in and hit it.
I had fallen into the tub and my shoulder and my arm hurt. Apparently I have what they call esophageal varices, which are essentially blood vessels in the esophagus that are enlarged. It could actually be fatal. But with the broken bones, I ended up having to take an ambulance.
And he was in there for quite a while. And we went up there and seen him just about every other day or so. I kind of feel like a sister to him because he gave me legal rights to sign for him to have surgery or blood or anything.
I'm missing playing, I'm missing the people, I'm missing the feeling of being active. I'm certainly, I won't lie, I'm an old Scrooge, I'm certainly bemoaning the money. I just have this fear that it's not going to be there when I get back. Well, you got to understand, I've never allowed myself to relax with this. I've been at this for 6 years now. I go home every day and I say, I can't believe that this is happening. I said, this is too good to be true. I come home every day with my little jar or guitar case of money and I go, well, it's still going. I guess it's still going. Who knows about tomorrow, but for now it's still going. So you can imagine having 2 months off. I'm like, oh boy, is it still there? Just let it be what it's always been. Just I'm not needing a big barn burner. See a few of my regulars and pick up $10, I'll go home happy. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Casey, this is Randy. I just wanted to let you know the madness continues. I'm still here counting the money from yesterday, and I'm already at $210 already, and I still got a whole case of money to count. This is going unbelievable. I can hardly believe it.
Just did the monthly books a couple of days ago. Thanks to your event, it was the monthly nut and $2,746 in the black. I'm nervous that you're going to think I'm lying about this. As you have come to know me, you know I watch my money pretty carefully. To a dollar, the money I lost from that accident and my medical incident was $2,700. So I pretty much made it all back with $46 to spare.
So we face a struggle and another pain, yeah, yeah. We gotta face our fears with every dragon slain. But there can be no rainbow. There can be no rainbow. Yeah, there can be no rainbow without the rain.
I started talking to a random stranger, and we've become lifelong friends. I love the song Randy plays called The Thornbird, which is about a legendary bird that sings just once in its life. It leaves its nest in search of a bush with long, sharp thorns, and when it finds it, it impales itself on the thorns and begins to sing as life leaves the wounded bird's body behind. God himself is said to smile at the captivating melody as if it were a choir of angels. The message of this legend is clear. Life's most beautiful moments are often born out of great suffering and great pain. Unlike the Thornbird, Randy sings his song every day, and I'm glad it's not his last. The final lesson here is just 3 words. No matter what life throws at you, try to be like Randy, never afraid to sing your song.
As his end is near and his sands of time will disappear, oh, the thornbird sings his song, makes his exit gracefully, his epilogue done masterfully. Oh, fades to black and he's gone. A song of beauty for the land. He ends his story with a stand. His final refrain, unrestrained. Oh, the thornbird sings his song. Oh, the thornbird sings his song. Wow, wow. Oh, sing your song, sing your song, sing your song, sing your song. Oh, thornbird, oh, sing your song.